Hey guys, my name is Michelle Taylor. I'm a psychologist here in Darwin. I've been here for 26 years. I just come on to say, I'm sorry I can't be here with you today, but this training is awesome. If you take notes and if you are really wanting to change and to get a better life, getting more energy, better well-being, just follow along. A lot of the things that I'm sharing with you today have been tried and tested, as well as a new model that I am releasing with you guys. So excited to share. So here we go. So the training is going to be about an hour, and it's about you getting deliberate and knowing that you are your greatest resource. I could have named it thousands of different things: resilience, well-being, prescriptive approach, but I just wanted you right off the bat to think and know that you have to be deliberate in order to live a great life, especially when you're a carer. So what we want to do is get you off autopilot and connect to why are you so stressed? I think you probably know, but I'll tell you a little bit more about the research around that in healthcare industries. What is the impact of your stress? I'm going to show you anti-fragility and talk about that, which is a new way of talking about resilience and why you need rest and reflection with this approach. And then I'm sharing with you my prescriptive approach to rest and to restoring yourself. And as part of that, we're going to be having a look at compassion versus empathy. So the reality is there's lots of suffering around, and we can't help but being touched by what's happening in the world around us. It's not just the type of work you do, but just being a human at the moment is extremely difficult. With all the overwhelm that's going on, what it does to our brain, and excuse me, I'm a psychologist, so we have to bring the brain into this. The brain gets overwhelmed. There's all this neurological activity going on in the brain, and it registers as a stress response in the amygdala. And that's the flight and freeze response. So with all the things going on and all the change, it triggers stress. Now I want to introduce you another way that your stress is being triggered, and it's by mirror neurons. So we learned about this through our monkey friends. Now, as a psychologist, we very humanely put some electrodes in a monkey's brain, just sort of sitting on the top, and we gave the monkey a banana. And what happened was a certain amount of neural networks were triggered. Oops, I don't know why that kept going forward. I must have pressed something, triggered, and then so we got the same amount of mirror neurons that were triggered if the monkey ate the banana or if he watched his mate eat the banana. So a mirror neuron gets fired, and you'll probably notice this if you're watching a horror movie. When you watch a horror movie and you feel like you're getting attacked or punched or whatever, and you cringe and you hide, it's because your mirror neurons have been fired. Now, we need mirror neurons to empathize, but also to learn. We learn from other people. But it also causes us to get stressed unnecessarily. If we're around people who have been traumatized or are highly stressed, then it triggers our mirror neurons without you even knowing. But the good news is mirror neurons can be triggered in a good way when you're around people who are happy and positive and doing fun stuff. It also turns off your stress response. So mirror neurons can be used in numbers of ways. And as a leader, if you're a leader and leading your team, you have to know that your response to stress, we're just going to go back to that one, does make a difference. If you are running around being stressed, it will trigger the stress response in your own team more than anybody else. It's got it's a high impact. So your emotional regulation, because it's like you're the head gorilla because we're all social animals, And if you're stressed, the rest of the team will be stressed and they're more likely to personalize what you say. So workplace trauma is a real thing. Direct trauma responses if you're physically in an incident or a critical incident. But there's indirect responses to trauma as well, and you can see that there, including compassion fatigue. So there is a lot of positive things for working with people, like lots of positive things being a helper. It feels great to be altruistic. It feels great to be a part of a team. But unfortunately, you do get tired. It's like any muscle. Think of compassion like a muscle. You can get strained in dealing with other people's pain. Feelings of hopelessness, especially if you're working with First Nations people, there can be a sense of hopelessness. You can also notice that there's a decrease in experiences of pleasure and increase in your own stress. You may notice that you become a little bit more pessimistic and get tired more easily. And also, because that empathy muscle's been used a lot, you can lose that empathy over time. Now, compassion's little brother or sibling is burnout. Now, burnout is not the same as compassion, but the outcome is similar: lost energy, lost enthusiasm, and lost confidence. So preventing these and also healing from them is important. So a stressed brain, let's look at a stressed brain on the right-hand side. You can see that the prefrontal cortex is not turned on, and that's the thinking part of your brain, and it's the decision-making part. And when you're stressed, the amygdala, which is like a smoke alarm in your brain, it stops you from that higher level controlling of your emotions. We call it an amygdala hijack. So obviously we don't want a workforce that's running around stressed. We want a workforce like on the left-hand side that you feel like you're in control of your thoughts and you've got that front thinking part of your brain turned on. How lovely. Now, chronic stress over time, you can sort of see the images here, a healthy brain and a brain that's had a lot of stress. There's less areas that are lit up. But the good news about a stressed brain is you can bounce back from chronic stress. And you can do that by doing the things that I'm talking about today. So this is Yertz-Dodson law. You might see it a little bit fuzzy, but you'll get the gist. So you've got performance and you've got arousal, and we see the interaction between these two. So with low performance, there's low with low arousal, there's a low performance. And we all know that when you get a little bit slack if you have lots of time to do a thing, and everybody loves a little bit of pressure, just a little bit of pressure to get something done. But we also know that if there's too much arousal or stress around, it's a slippery slope. So getting to know your triggers, or not even your triggers, but also the signs that you're getting more stress so you can do something about it and start to implement this plan that we're going to be talking about today is really important. So starting to know when you're going to have to implement this plan is important, because we want you in that middle zone, that optimal performance zone. But we know that it's not black and white, that you're on a continuum between being engaged, actively engaged, burnt out, etc. And we know that often it's not just one end or another, that we go up and down all the time. So the Dalai Lama, who doesn't love the Dalai Lama? So the Dalai Lama is a wise man, and he says that if you're you're starting to feel burnt out, you have to, for the sake of everyone, to withdraw and restore yourself. You have to have a long-term perspective, not just a short-term perspective. And if the Dalai Lama says it, it must be true. So this is a very simple outline of things that you need to do to care for yourself. And you would already know this list: get enough sleep, enough to eat, vary the work you do, light exercise, etc. However, There's a lot of things that get in the way of you doing that. So what we're going to be talking about is replenishing yourself so you don't get burnt out. It reduces your stress and also your risk of vicarious trauma. Don't you love those fish? And just watching them can help you feel relaxed, I think. So let's have a look at the myth of work-life balance. And it is a myth. There is no such thing as a balance. It's about what you think and feel about work that makes a difference. Now let's look at anti-fragility. This is the new way of thinking about resilience, and I love it. So you can see that if something's fragile, when that pink ball is a stressor, it breaks something fragile. When something is resilient, you can see the stressor just bounces off, leaving that person, which is the stick, unchanged. However, with the anti-fragile model, you can see that the stressor changes that person and usually makes them stronger and more able to deal with stress. But you can only be anti-fragile if you relax. And this is where that thought of the myth of work-life balance fits in, because there is no such as work-life balance as long as you are getting enough rest and the way that you think and you feel helps make you, or your reflective process helps make you adaptable, and then you can deal with lots of things. Humans, you are a very adaptable person. So let's look at two modes. There are two ways that your brain works: conceptual and experiential. The first one is labeling, and it's all that higher level thinking of the brain that the prefrontal cortex considers. The other is the experiential part of your brain, which is just noticing. And we need to get into this just noticing part. We can't just be in that thinking, judging, analyzing part of your brain all the time. You need a rest from it, and you need to take a break. And that's why you need to take a number of breaks during the day, and also to be mindful. Because when you're mindful, it'll help you with that self-reflection, which is a higher cognitive function. Now, when you're fatigued, there is a myth that, or if you get enough sleep, you do enough yoga, lie on the couch and watch Netflix, that this will restore you. But we know that this isn't true. That's why I'm introducing a prescriptive approach to healing, basically, and preventing compassion fatigue and burnout, etc. And this prescriptive approach means that depending upon the type of drain, like physical, emotional, you can actually pick what your approach will be. And here we have them here. Let's start at the bottom, which is physical. Now, many of you don't really do physical jobs. Not many people do, which is using your body. But we do know that when you've got a real or perceived stress, which is a mental stress, it does create a physical drain on your body. Now, what I'd like you to do is, I'm going through these, I want you to tick which aspect you think that you need help with, which is the drain that you need to get the specific prescription for. So we've got an emotional drain. So anybody who works with heightened emotions, you have heightened emotions during the day, even watching trauma stories on TV, problem solving, high emotional issues, and giving a lot to people in your role. So giving a lot of compassion away, that can be an emotional drain. The next is mental and sensory drain. This is around if you're going, oops, this just keeps changing. Sorry about that. This is if you're around lots of noisy people in the office, Teams or Zoom calls. You look at computers a lot. This is a high mental drain. Also, if you've got lots of work to do, remember that image of that guy in the front with all the little things coming out of his head? He's got a lot going on in the frontal cortex, and that triggers a stress response. Also, too much overthinking or problem solving, worrying, etc., or even lots of decision making. Lots of managers make a lot of decisions, and that is a mental drain. And the last one is a spiritual drain, and this is a big one, especially with people dealing with lots of ambiguity in your work. There's no right or wrong, and there's been a lot of ambiguity in our world because of COVID. Also, if there's inequity in your role, feeling helpless, if you feel alone or disconnected or not connected to your purpose or even the purpose of the organization, you'll experience a physical drain. Now, keeping those in mind, it might be all of them, or it might only be a couple of them that you really feel that you need the special prescription for. So let's get on with it. So this is my prescription for you. So these are the 4 types of rest. Now we're going to be starting our plan, and we're starting with physical. So to start with, we have to think about body talking to the body. So it's an interesting thing, body talking to the body. We start with the idea of belly breathing, and I think you probably have already been introduced to belly breathing, which is relaxing your belly, so your diaphragm, which is the thing at the bottom of your lungs that contracts to allow your lungs to fully expand. When you relax your belly and you don't hold on so tight to your ab muscles, you can allow your lungs to expand and you can fully take in the breath. So what happens is when you take a slower, deeper breath, it's like a feedback response to your brain. It turns off the stress response. Now, box breathing is something I learned because I'm very interested in high performance with teams, especially coming from ICU, where you need to access that higher level thinking. And box breathing is introduced to the SAS fighter workforce, as well as pilots who need to operate at that higher level. So I think if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. So let's just do a little bit of box breathing. And we're going to do it for the 4 rounds. So if everybody promises not to poke each other, poke your person next to you, feeling comfortable enough to close your eyes, we're going to do this box breathing. So just imagine 4 sides of a box, and you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and then you hold for 4, and then you complete that cycle 4 times. So let's begin. So in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Last one, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now opening your eyes and checking back in with your body. Now, if you're like most people and you're human, you should feel a drop in the level of arousal that you feel. So what you've done is 2 things to achieve this. The first is you've gotten your thoughts or focus from any perhaps stressful thinking. And number 2 is you've allowed the body, talk to the body and physically turn off that stress response by making your breath slower and more even and probably a lot deeper. Okay, so the next one is body scan. So some people know this as progressive muscle relaxation. Again, relaxing the muscles tells the brain that there's nothing to be stressed about, as does massage. If you're one of these people who likes massage, that is the body talking to the body. The muscles get relaxed, tells the brain everything's okay. I love massages. And a lot of times people come and see me, and it's funny, I just write them a little prescription and I go, yep, permission granted to go and get a massage. How fabulous. All right, so what did we just do then? So we've used the power of the breath, and what we've done is we've stimulated the thing called your parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is in charge of, it's like the brakes of your nervous system. So it calms everything down. And what you've done is made your brain what we call more coherent. Now, I've got a special little machine that's like a biofeedback machine that I could show you if you'd just done that exercise, that you would have changed your waveform. So the top waveform, it might have looked a little bit like that. And it would have shifted it to something perhaps more positive or a nice big sine wave. So this wave down the bottom, you can see so you can get on my little biofeedback machine if you do deep breathing, or you'll also see it if you experience a positive emotion. So positive emotions are another way to restore your physical body. Another way to restore your physical body is using the words calm, relax, or even creating little nooks that you're feeling really safe. Anything where you feel really safe and snug, and this looks very pleasing and soft. That is one of the things that also helps restore your physical body. So I spoke to you about the parasympathetic nervous system and how this operates. It stimulates the vagus nerve. Now, these are the other ways that you can just have a little flick through with your eyes, have a look there. These are the things that also turn your vagus nerve or stimulate your vagus nerve. Interesting, singing, splashing really cold water on your face. Icy cold water is just lovely, is also good. Talking softly. And what I used to do in ICU is I would deliberately walk slower around to try to calm my brain in a high impact situation when I really wanted to run, but I just made myself calm down. So you can see some other things there that can be useful for your physical body. So other things that include physical rest, and it's interesting, we think that exercise wouldn't, but exercise can be really restorative for your body, especially if it improves circulation and flexibility for your body. Getting good sleep, and I'm going to talk about that shortly, is good. Having little power naps, awesome. Good quality food, good gut health. We know the connection between serotonin and getting lots of, like a very diverse amount of gut biome, how that impacts your physical body. It gives you lots more energy. And reducing sugar and carbs. Now, everybody loves a little bit of sugar, but we know that with sugar comes a sugar crash. So just try and limit your sugar if you're going to be having chocolate, and who doesn't love chocolate? Just have some dark chocolate and have it frequently. So let's think about some other things that we can do to help restore your physical body. These are really simple. You're going to get a slide to see these. Just popping yourself in these positions for a short amount of time can just calm the physical body. Makes me relax just looking at them. So now let's talk about sleep. So remember writing these things down when they float your boat, when you think that, oh, yes, I need a little bit of that. Please write them down. Now, one thing for sleep, and it's one of the first things I talk about with people, especially when they're getting really fatigued, is the quality of sleep. And what you need to do is in the morning or at lunchtime, you need to get out and get a bit of sun on your eyeballs. This will help trigger some neurochemicals in your body that will get your circadian rhythm just humming. So these words I've curated carefully for you because words are very powerful. So often when people are having trouble sleeping, they use words like words like, oh God, I can't get to sleep, or I better be able to get to sleep tonight, or you're thinking about the problems. No, bed is not the time for thinking about problems. And you can turn off the stress response in your brain by using these words. So you can talk yourself to sleep, like, I'm relaxing into the bed, I'm sinking deeper into the mattress, my mind is easing with each breath. It's nice for my thoughts to be slowing down. My breath is getting slower and deeper, and it's so comfortable in here. I love my bed. You can say things like snug. I'm so snug under these sheets. They feel so nice. My pillow's so soft. I think you get the message. But using words like this can really help you feel sleepy. So these are my top tips. Exercise a few hours before bed. Exercise is really great to get those good hormones going that will help you sleep. Magnesium is fabulous for relaxing your body and relaxing your mind. And you can use a spray with oil. You can pop it some magnesium flakes in your bath, or you can take some good quality stuff orally. You can also tell yourself, use sleep stories, and I'll share the app with you in the next couple of slides. Using hypnosis, use gratitude when you're lying in bed, especially when you're finding that you're not getting great quality sleep. When you use gratitude before you go to sleep, or say positive things about your day or your life, or even feel positive using some beautiful images, it'll turn off the stress response, and the quality of sleep you'll be getting will be much greater. You won't be tossing and turning as much in bed. So also getting some great night routines, taking comforting drinks, showering, and slowing down. Night routines, our brains love routine and predictability, and you just set that up, can be really useful. I've shared with you my sleepy words, and just making sure that you don't bring work to bed. I mean, that's quite disgusting, isn't it? The thought of work hops into bed with you. But you can just use those images to make it like a gross response. So you can fully embrace that bed is just for sleep, sex, reading, that sort of thing. And connect regularly with others will turn off your stress response, because we're social beings, aren't we? So this is the Calm app that I spoke about that has sleep stories on it. I love these sleep stories. This is there's a paid or a free version. This is probably the best app that I have on my phone, and I advocate for others, because it has the sleep stories, and that's the biggest thing that people struggle with, is sleep. Now, let's have a look at emotional healing. So if you've ticked emotional, pay attention to what we're going to be talking about. So if you've had an emotional day, I do encourage you to come home and talk about it, maybe put a timer on it. But naming a difficult emotion is really great to help you not get stuck in it. So I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, etc. those sorts of words or naming it can give you a comfortable distance from it. And we know that you're more likely to shift, to deal with those thoughts when you name them. So often when we have this emotional depletion, our confidence gets reduced. So if you've noticed that, try to use your strengths. Now, if you don't know your strengths, ask your manager, ask your peers, ask your partners what they think that you're really good at, because usually they're the things that you enjoy doing the most as well. Also, with your confidence, just pay attention to your self-talk and try and get some small wins at work. And if you're not getting any small wins, I'd like you to start to notice them, because I bet that you are getting some wins. Usually when I see people who want more confidence, they come to me for coaching or whatever. Michelle, I need more confidence. Usually what I find is they're the people who can't tell me what they did that day that they were pleased about. So if this is you, start to look at the things that you were pleased about, what you did today or that happened today, and that will help build your confidence. So emotional rest. So one thing about emotional rest is you need to be able to have a feeling that you can say no. So you have some agency with your work. So no to taking on more, because sometimes, especially in the healthcare professions, people are so nice and they're people pleasers and they don't want to let people down. But the thing is, remember the Dalai Lama? Think about the long term. Say, I'd like to, but I can't. I've already said about naming the feelings. Problem solving out loud also is a good thing to do. Problem solving out loud to somebody else. Now, the first thing that's good about that is it makes you feel more connected to the other person. It makes you feel more supported, just generally, which will turn your stress response down and help you feel more emotionally supported and cared for. But it also it stimulates the parasympathetic nerve, that vagus nerve, so it can calm you down a little bit. Appreciating yourself, that is undervalued. Please appreciate, again, your strengths that I said before, and nurturing yourself. Usually people who have this emotional drain overgive, they overcare, and they don't come home and fill their own bucket. You have to care for yourself as well. You can't just pour compassion and care outside of you. It needs to come back. Can you see how you would get a drain? So think of it like a bucket. So you've got things coming in. Sorry, if things aren't coming in, so you're not being kind to yourself, but you're draining all day, there's all these holes in your bucket's going to be empty and you're going to be fatigued and you're going to feel fried. So self-compassion. So I invite anybody to pop your hand either on your chest, on your shoulder, on your leg, wherever. I'm going to pop mine on my chest. Now, self-compassion. We are mammals, and as mammals, we love to be touched because it makes us feel nurtured. It's the way we were brought up. So just feeling the warmth now as you touch yourself. No giggles. Just feeling the warmth from your hand, and just imagine you're the hand now, giving yourself some comfort, but also feel from the body's perspective, the hand on you. So you're doing the comforting and you're getting comforted at the same time, feeling some compassion and care for yourself. It feels nice accepting that warmth. So making sure that you can accept that warmth and that care. The next point is making sure that you're around people who make you feel good. Remember the mirror neurons? And making sure that you say it's okay for you to say, no, I don't want to, no, I can't go out for lunch today, or I can't do this, or if you don't like them, don't hang out with them. If they're a drain, please say no. And lastly, for emotional rest is making sure that you've got a good way of dealing with your negative emotions. Get yourself a good counselor, get yourself a good whoever to help you deal with those if you've got negative emotions coming up on a regular basis, like sadness or anger, and you're feeling like you're just not dealing with them. And mindfulness is a good way of being able to get a comfortable distance from your feelings and perhaps learn how to deal with them. So we've already talked about kindness and self-kindness. So let's have a look at the difference between compassion and empathy. And you can see from this study that the areas of the brain are different between both. So we know that compassion is better than empathy for health carers. Empathy can give you empathetic distress, and this is when you're feeling for the other person. But compassion is different because it's just an understanding in your brain of what the other person might be feeling, but without feeling it. Compassion, you're still caring. But so as you can see, compassion is a better way to go for health carers. But you may ask, Michelle, how do you do that? How do you have, or how do you feel that compassion? So practice loving kindness meditation. Now, this is a fun thing to do. There's lots of them on YouTube. You can see scripts on, if you Google it, but it gives you the feeling of what compassion feels like. And compassion feels a little bit like you're loving and caring towards them. So it's like you're sitting in love or care for that other person, but you're not taking on their distress. So when you're feeling compassion, you can actually deal with worse trauma stories. And I know this for myself. I can sit with trauma stories sitting in compassion, but when I sit with empathy, I come home and I feel a lot more fatigued. This is as a psychologist. And also I feel, more burnt out and like I can't take it. And this is what I've come home from work sometimes and thought, but when I sit in compassion, I don't feel like that. So another thing to do is when you're with a person, acknowledge the ups and downs, that in any moment you're only seeing like a snapshot of in time. You're not seeing the whole person's life. You're just sort of seeing the bad story for just now. So make sure that you see them not as a victim, but see their skills and their strengths, and also about how they've grown since they've had that situation happen, and making sure that what's happening to them doesn't define them in your mind or in their mind. And when you're mindful, you can see the difference between them and you won't personalize. I've certainly personalized trauma before, and it hasn't boded well for me at all. So when I spoke about focusing on strengths, what you're doing is you're holding in your mind the highest image of that person. And this helps your expectations of them, helps bring them up to create what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because when you see them as a victim, that's all they feel. So making sure that you hold a higher vision in your mind, not just for their healing, but it's also much better for you. Okay, so we've done a bit of work in emotional, and there's probably a lot there that you will probably have to do, because I would imagine that all your work is pretty much emotional. So let's go to mental and sensory. So remember, mental and sensory is when you've got that high level problem solving. There's lots of work to do, lots of decisions. You're on computers and Zoom. That affects your senses and also your brain, also when there's change around. So let's see what you might need to do here to help with those sorts of drains. So mental rest. There is no mistake that I've put a lovely green nature here for mental rest. So when you think about mental rest, the first thing that comes to my mind is reducing any load on the senses. So it's reducing sounds, it's reducing sights. So going to a nice, darkish room can feel so fabulous for a mental rest, like you're going to a little cave. So beautiful, really. That thought. Another way of having mental rest is writing down thoughts as they arise. Another thing for mental rest is making an appointment with your worry. Now, this is an awesome thing to do, make an appointment with your worry. So what happens is when you overthink about something, what you do is you actually physically put something in your diary for you to problem solve about that thing that you're ruminating with. So anything that's going around and around in your head that you don't feel like you've got an answer for, this is the thing to make an appointment with your worry. So anytime a thought comes up about a particular problem or a situation, and maybe it's a new bit of information, then you go to that part in your diary where you've got your appointment, might be 4 o'clock next Tuesday, it could be in a month's time. Just pop in the agenda those points that you've been thinking about and then let it go, because you know you've got an appointment with your worry and you're going to go and deal with it then. This is an amazing, amazing thing to do. I've had so many great responses from people who've done this. So please don't underestimate how simple it is. And then anytime your brain just comes back to you and says, oh, Michelle, what about that thing? You go, it's okay. I've got this covered. I've got an appointment with this worry on 4 o'clock next Tuesday, and I'll think about it then. So fabulous. The next thing to do, and remember that guy with all the things coming out of his brain, one of the first slides I showed you, you need to take short breaks during the day. And remember anti-fragility. You can deal with lots of things if you give yourself enough rest to decompress, to process, and to give your brain a little break. So remember the Dalai Lama, think the long term, and your brain will be much better for it. Make sure you have a break away from your computer, go out in nature. There's a great recording I have. It's called Leaf on a Stream, and it's on my website, C4 Consultancy, and it's in the resources section. This is a great exercise to let go of any thoughts that are coming through your brain, and you can just go on there. It's for free. Connecting with nature, we've already said. Mindfulness, I keep talking about mindfulness. So micro meditations. So my friends, let's do one now. A micro meditation only needs to take 15 seconds. Seriously, that's short. Eckhart Tolle talks about these. And so what we're going to do, if you're going to prepare to close your eyes again, and I'll just keep the time. I'm just getting my phone out, sorry, to have a look at. So I'm not going to give you longer than 15 seconds. All right. So what I'd like you to do, as you've got your eyes closed, I want you to do nothing. How glorious is that? So when any thought arises in your mind, I just don't want you to do anything with it. Just nothing. All right. So it starts now. And stop. Well done. So 15 seconds is long enough for you to get a little bit of space in your brain from all those thoughts. But it also feels doable, doesn't it? 15 seconds. Anybody can do 15 seconds. So let's do another 15, but this time what I'd like you to bring is what's called beginner's mind. So whatever comes up in your mind, I just want you to think or feel that you don't know what to do about it, and you don't need to know. Okay, so a beginner's mind. And your time starts now. Fabulous. And stop. Well done, guys. You've just done 2 micro meditations. Easy to do, and you can do them anywhere, and they will refresh your brain, give you a little bit of space in between the thoughts, because isn't that what you're after? So, Mark Twain, we all love Mark Twain as well. I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened, pointing towards that a lot of what we worry about doesn't happen at all. And that will give you mental rest, thinking about that. So another thing that can give you mental rest is turning off of a night. And maybe this is going to be your most favorite thing that you need to write down for your wellbeing plan or your prescriptive approach, however we're calling it. So turning off of a night means that you're not working all the time. There's a discrete time for working, and then there's a discrete time for being at home. So the first thing to do is when you're at work, start planning for tomorrow, making sure that you have listed be thoughtful, listed all the things that you need to do the morning, and start prepping for tomorrow, because it's easier to prep the day before than it is in the morning. Popping it on paper is essential, getting any documents ready, popping them in a folder. Your brain will thank you for it. If you're on call or you've got a problem, please even just flick an email off to somebody. Start the process off of problem solving that thing. And when you're ready to leave, and I know you all just want to rush out the door as soon as it's time, it's like, bang, you're gone. You have the thought and then you're out the door. Please leave deliberately. Only leave when you're ready to leave work behind. And then I love you to leave work behind. And then when you shut the door behind your office or to work, make it symbolic. Leaving work now. Be very present as you leave work and symbolically leave it in the room, leave it in the building. And then when you're in the car, again, being present, you can even say, I'm in transition now. And then do whatever you need to do to be in that state. I don't know if you need to do music or do whatever. Some person I knew would take her shoes off in the car because that symbolized that was the old life, or the old, the work life. And now she's barefoot in the car driving home. That was her symbol. So when you shut the car door, when you get home, again, think, oh, there's another door closed, another transition segment. So remember, we want you to get the idea of these are segments in time being present. So you don't feel like work just slips into all of your life. That's this one long continuum. Now, if you do want to talk shop at home, please just put a timer on and stick to it. Maybe stick to it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, blarp it all out. Remember, name your feelings and then let it go. And then be present at home. Anchor your mind in the space. Make sure you're looking all around the room. Feel your feet on the floor as you're walking around your home, your beautiful, safe space. And if your thoughts arise and it's a worry, just pop it in your meeting with the worry agenda and leave it aside. If there's a thought that pops up about tomorrow, just pop it in your diary for tomorrow and then mentally think, I don't need to think about that again. I've dealt with it, and then let it go. Also, make sure that you're living deliberately. Make sure that you have a life outside of work, so that if life is like a big television screen, your life, that work doesn't fill the whole screen, that you have other fun activities and people inside the television screen of your life. Again, if turning off for the night, I love using language, being very deliberate about language, because I think that can be really useful. And the next thing is sleepy time practices. Deliberately no work in bed. And if you're having trouble with that, if you're still thinking about work in bed, just imagine a colleague lying in bed with you. That'll be enough to get you to stop thinking about that, I bet. Hysterical. I've talked about mindfulness. There's heaps of apps about mindfulness, but you don't need an app. Just connect to the birds, listening to the birds, watching the trees, swaying in the breeze. Be very present. Be present while you're listening to your family and your loved ones. Very important. Okay, now I'm just going to take a pause and I'm going to take a breath, because this is really important, this slide. It's reframing what's happening to you. I see people get really stuck in the thought of, oh my God, I'm starting not to care about work. And that becomes the story. All right. So what we're going to do now is reframe these fatigue stories around work. So we're reframing not caring about work to, this is my body, who I love and respect, wanting me to focus on something else right now. So this is your body saying, no more energy for work. I need to it's like a red flag. You need to put some more energy into your own life. And this doesn't mean that you have to go on a holiday for 3 weeks because you just don't care about work anymore. It's just showing you need to care about you. Okay, there's been an imbalance. Fatigue. I'm so tired. This is my body saying I haven't rested in some way and I need to listen. If you're not feeling any emotions at work, and believe me, I felt like this too. This is my body saying I've been giving too much and not giving and being kind to me. And if you're really super anxious and stressed, this is my body telling me that I'm having a thought that I'm not safe in some way. Maybe I need to problem solve. Maybe I need to check if this is my fear or is it somebody else's. Very powerful. So rumination I've already spoken about. Remember, we're still talking about mental and sensory stresses now and the ways you can restore it. Rumination is when things go round and round in your mind. You can do that leaf on a stream exercise that I'm giving you the recording of. And you can also do the meeting with the worry. That's also really great. And the other thing you can do is, with this rumination, looking at what you can and can't control, or talking to somebody and problem solving. This is just making sure that you're staying in the present and having a little mental check. Is my mind in the past? Is my mind in the future? Or am I right here, right now? Now, I really love this image. This is from Lunig. And as you can see here, all your thoughts and all your feelings are just for now. And usually when I find that people make an appointment with me, they might have booked in because there's been some big issue at work. But by the time they come and get to see me, that issue is often changed. And I think what that tells us is that there's always going to be some issue. There's always something that we could focus on that is a problem. But whatever is happening doesn't always last. And just watch your mind if you're catastrophizing. So in composure is the new calm. Composure means that you're wise with your relaxation, that you can walk around being present and being able to deal with things in a different way. And hopefully with these strategies, you are going to be more composed. So lastly, when we're looking at this prescriptive approach, we're connecting to the spiritual. So spiritual rest is when you feel connected and belong where you are. You accept where you are and you feel a sense of purpose. So a sense of purpose means that you're feeling fulfilled or connected to a deeper why. And to get some beautiful, deep spiritual rest, nature is the best remedy. It's the best remedy for all the prescriptions. Prayer, even if it's like, please help me today, or I've just got to let this go. I can't sort this problem out. I've just got to hand it over, even if it's to, a higher power, or you just feel like you've just got to surrender just for now because whatever you're doing hasn't been working and you just have to let it go. Meditation can also give that beautiful sense of expansiveness and connection to everything if you can really go beautifully and deeply. And at work as an organization, you can start to think about we and talk about we. So people feel connected and they feel connected to a vision. And perhaps you do need to get a vision at work or connect your why to the workplace's why if you feel like you need a bit more of a spiritual connection and rest. And with other people in your group, start to look for similarities rather than differences. So this spiritual connection is just checking in, feeling your humanness, feeling that you're imperfect like everybody else. That's actually the definition of being human, is being vulnerable, and that all humans are imperfect. So what could be some sensible next steps? So a good thing to ask, like if you're feeling really fatigued, is in your situation, what would you tell somebody else? So what would you tell somebody else who was feeling like you were feeling? If you're not sleeping and you're still feeling stressed, teary, or more nervous than normal, I think a first good stop is going to your GP and getting some bloods done. Listen to your body, trust your body, like when we did the reframe. It's telling you a story, even if it's just the story for this hour, this minute, or this day. Listen to what your body needs. You need to be responsible for your own self. Check in and then do something different. Talk to somebody. Counseling, coaching. A mate is great, but can only get you so far. And sometimes you only need to go once just to get you through one of those little humps that you saw before, that loony cartoon. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a help to climb the mountain again. And what I often do if I see people who are really fatigued is I send them to a GP to go and get a break from work. Maybe you need 1 day, 2 days, or perhaps you have not had a holiday for a long time. Make sure that you do book in regular holidays so you do have that, you do connect to that anti-fragility where you can adapt over time. So I'm hoping that you've written down a number of things that appeal to you with your own prescription. You might not see it, but I've written your wellbeing plan needs to be your recipe, not someone else's. Your recipe for your work and what your recipe for where you are right now. Your recipe of your secret spices. So I'm open to getting, to answer any questions. And I really look forward to getting your feedback on the workshop today. So as a parting message, we've gone through the different levels of the drains, and I'm hoping that you've liked this prescriptive approach, that you know the why behind you need to do specific things and how that will restore you, especially with the type of job that you've got. So I hope you have an amazing summit, and I look forward to connecting with some of you on a face-to-face basis at some stage. See ya.